Welcome. I see Matthew here, and you are more than welcome to ask questions as we go. Just an FYI, the last 15 minutes of the lesson will be set aside just for Q&A. So anything that we don't have time for, those last 15 minutes we will get to. I'm Camille. If you're new here, you might not have seen me because I've been on maternity leave for several months. But I am really, really happy to be back here with you. And today we will be doing a first voice lesson, first singing lesson. Of course, it'll be a little bit different than a one-on-one private lesson, but I'll take you through what I normally do with a new student. And the very first thing to cover, which of course we can't on an individual basis, is your vocal history, any health concerns that you have, and your goals. So if we're one-on-one or if you're working one-on-one with a teacher, those are the things that they would start with, is kind of where did you come from? Do you have a musical background? Do you have any health concerns, specifically any vocal health concerns? And then what are your singing goals? A lot of people have, hi, Isaiah. A lot of people have just the general goal of getting better. But if you had a specific and time restricted goal, like you're working toward an audition or a performance, then that would be something to consider as well. Let me tell you just where we're going with this lesson so you know what to expect. We're going to talk about matching pitch. We'll talk about finding your range. We'll go over just the bare basics of posture and breathing. We'll talk about different vocal registers. We'll do some vocal exercises and talk about developing mix. I want to get through a lot of material, so we need to jump right in. And then if we have time, we'll talk about working on songs and other goals. So let's first start with matching pitch. Matching pitch, pitch matching means if a teacher plays a pitch on the piano, you are able to sing that same exact pitch. So for example, I'm going to play this pitch. That pitch is called C4 or middle C. And we're going to test your ability to match that pitch. So if you're joining me either live or later, if you will open up a new tab or window and type in tuner.ninja. Of course, if I was with you, I'd be able to tell you if you're matching pitch. But since I'm not with you, you've got to do this for yourself. So go to this website. I just put it in the chat, tuner.ninja. There are chromatic tuner apps that you could use, but I like using this one because you don't have to download anything. So it should pop up. It'll say online chromatic instrument tuner. You might need to give it permission to access your microphone. And then when you press start and start making noise, it will start analyzing your pitch. It'll work best if you have me in your headphones. That way it's not picking up my sound as well. So that's what I would recommend for this. Grab a pair of headphones if you have some handy. And then we'll test your ability to match pitch. Again, I'm going to play the pitch first so you can hear it and know what it is that you're trying to match. And then you're singing on anything. You could even just hum or sing ah. And using tuner.ninja, we'll see how close you get to that. Now, for some singers, especially lower voiced singers, when I play that note, C4, if you have a lower voice than mine, you might be singing C3. These pitches are what we call one octave apart. You can hear they kind of blend together really well. So if I'm working with you one-on-one, you're a low-voiced singer, I would probably start you in that lower octave. So if you are singing one of these Cs, either C4 or C3, then great. You are matching pitch, you're doing well. If, on the other hand, you are not singing a C, say you're singing a G or something else, then you are not matching pitch. And this is something that you would want to work on. I would say before you work on other aspects of vocal technique, this is a foundational skill that you should spend time with. So we have plenty of other videos on matching pitch, intonation. I can link some of those in the chat for you. But this is a crucial skill because any exercise we do kind of assumes that you are able to match pitch. So let's try another pitch for some of you. Hey, maybe that C was uncomfortably low. So let's try another pitch. I'm going to play now the pitch called G3. And if you're a low voice singer, this should be comfortable for you, kind of regardless of if you're a tenor or a baritone or a bass, you should be pretty comfy singing this pitch. If you're a higher voice singer like me, this is kind of low. Still doable, but some higher voices, that might be uncomfortably low. So again, are you able to match that pitch when you use tuner.ninja? Does it pick up that you are also singing G3? And you'll notice those sounds kind of blend together. When you're matching pitch or singing in unison, as we'd say, it's almost like the piano or your voice will sort of disappear. Whereas if I'm singing a different pitch, or even if I'm kind of out of tune, you'll hear there's a clashing going on. So if you're matching pitch, great. That is the skill you need to continue. And it's really okay to stay there for a while. If that's where you're at, that's where you're at. No, nothing wrong with it. Next step, if you are matching pitch, we can work together to find your range. I do this if students ask, but I typically am not voice typing people in a first lesson. That's just me personally. Most beginning singers have a pretty limited range. So to me, it's not super helpful to assess your range and then give it to you, assuming that you're going to stay there. I don't want you to put yourself in a box. However, we're going to go through kind of some of the common ranges together. Again, we're using tuner.ninja. So I'll play a pitch, I'll have you match it, and whenever you stop feeling comfortable, we'll write that pitch down just so you know, okay, my lowest comfortable pitch today is whatever it is. So we'll do that quickly and take notes. But again, I am we're not putting you in a box at all. We're just seeing where you're at today. And a lot of new students are interested to know kind of what vocal range or what voice type they're closest to. So let's start that pitch I just played, G3. We're going to walk down from there. So especially low voices, you should have several notes below this. Voices like mine, higher voices, that might be the bottom. That might even be too low for you. So don't worry, we'll walk up, but I'm going to go lower first. So here's G3. And remember, you're using tuner.ninja and you're just matching that pitch. Whatever vowel or sound you want. I'm going to play a little bit lower now. This is F sharp 3. And you're matching, seeing if that's still comfortable for you. We're going lower. That's F3. I'm going to keep going now, and I won't sing along this time, just you. E3. E flat or D sharp 3. D3. D flat or C sharp 3. C3. B2. B flat or A sharp 2. Now, I know some of you have probably reached the bottom of your range. So whatever pitch that was, just write it down. A2, A flat or G sharp 2, G2, G flat or F sharp 2, F2, E2, E flat or D sharp 2, D2, D flat or C sharp 2, C2. Okay, some very, very rare voices might be able to sing lower than that. My keyboard stops there because it's a smaller keyboard. So I assume that most of you have dropped out by now and have found your lowest pitch. If you're here live and want to share, if you found your lowest pitch, you can share that in the chat. I can share mine if you want. I'm getting over being sick, so it's not super accurate, but let's see. It's not sounding great. I'm still kind of making noise. So it's up to you whether you want to write down your lowest pitch that you can make noise at, or the lowest pitch at which you feel comfortable singing and you feel still sounds good. And maybe those are two different pitches. So for me, I might say F3. Maybe that's the lowest pitch today that I feel sounds good and feels good. But I might still make note, I was making noise down to C3. And that's mostly due to the fact that I'm still sick. But hey, so you might do the same. Okay, we're going to go back to where we started, G3. And we're going to walk up. I'll go a little bit faster this time. This time I'll just say sharps instead of flats. As we went down, I was doing sharps and flats. Anyways. Okay, so here's G3. We're finding your highest pitch now. G sharp 3. A3. A sharp 3. B3. And thank you, Dancing Machine. Dancing Machine's lowest comfy pitch was D flat 3 right here. Okay. B3. C4. C sharp 4. D4. D sharp 4. E4. F4. F sharp 4. G4. G sharp 4. A4. A sharp 4. B4. C5. Now, most likely, some of you have now found your highest comfortable pitch, and some of you may have had to kind of switch gears in order to keep singing. Maybe you started to get a little bit shouty. Maybe your voice cracked. If that happened, then I would encourage you to instead sing on a lighter, quieter whoo whoo sound, kind of like an owl hoot. Woo. So C5, that's where we're at. Maybe you're not able to sing that full and loud, but you might be able to hum it or sing woo, woo, just that quiet little owl hoot sound. So let's keep going. C sharp 5, D5, D sharp 5, E5, F5, F sharp 5, G5, G sharp 5, A5, A sharp 5, B5, C6. And I'm going to stop there Most folks will have found their highest comfortable note by this point. Of course, you could keep going on your own. You could make the highest sound that you possibly can and analyze that on Tuner Ninja. If it's beyond C6, then, whatever that is for you, you can write that down. Most people will have reached their kind of comfy ceiling. Dancing Machine said A5 is it. So Dancing Machine, based on that, that's kind of you're spanning both low alto to mezzo range within that comfy range today. So again, not a fan of putting you in a box, but a lot of new students want to know what their range is. And so technically you're finding your comfortable range doing what we just did. And as you train, you can expect that to change. Range and voice type, there's overlap, but there's differences there. So, anyways, moving on. Even just doing that is really helpful for you to get a sense of pitch and where those pitches fall within your voice. So I know me giving you those pitch letter names and numbers, it might sound foreign to you, but musicians use those pitches a lot of times, and it's helpful for you to start gaining an awareness of the keyboard and your voice. Anyways, moving on. So we've found your range, we've determined whether or not you can match pitch, and now we'll talk a little bit about the basics of posture and breathing. Hi, Sheila. And thank you so much for being here. I know it's been a while. So, some voice teachers will focus quite a lot on posture and breathing. I like to give you the basics and then move on, not spend, a full hour on posture and breathing. So, whether you're seated or standing, if you're able to stand, that usually is preferable. But of course, you can sing sitting down, and a lot of times we do sing seated. Many a choir rehearsal, especially longer ones, are done seated. So, wherever you're at today, we want to have our spine be nice and long. We want our shoulders to be relaxed down and back. We want to feel our head just kind of floating above our spine. We don't want to be pulling back or pushing forward. And I would say most of us kind of living in front of screens, our tendency is to have our head be more forward. So that's something to be mindful of. You can stretch out your neck a little bit, roll out your shoulders, and then develop that awareness of, am I kind of hunching forward? Or can I imagine there's maybe a string that's pulling my head up into the ceiling, like from my skull? And what does that feel like? I kind of feel like a ballerina when I'm getting into that posture. But essentially, good posture is good singing posture. So, again, our spine is long. Imagine that there's a string pulling your skull into the ceiling. Your shoulders are down, back, and relaxed, arms just hanging at your sides. Another thing to be aware of is our shoulders rolling forward and our chest kind of being concave. Again, that's sort of the default for a lot of people, especially as we're seated. We kind of just sort of slump. And that's not the best posture or the best singing posture. So that's another thing to be aware of. We want our chest to be comfortably lifted. So just think tall, proud, confident posture. You're not sticking your chest out or making yourself uncomfortable in any way. But when our chest is lifted, you'll feel also that your rib cage is elevated. Now we've got nice, relaxed space for our rib cage to expand. Your rib cage is expanding with your lungs as they're filling with air. So we're just putting ourselves in an optimal position for that. And now for breathing. Did we cover every important thing with posture? I think so. Your chin level with the floor, maybe slightly tucked. We don't want our chin to be reaching forward, putting unnecessary strain there. And now the basics of breathing. What I want you to do now, actually, whether if you were standing, find a seat. And what I want you to do is take your elbows and put your elbows on your knees. I might be a little bit out of frame to demonstrate this. Whoops. um, but you're going to put your elbows on your knees. Okay, leaning forward there. And what I want you to do within that posture, which I can't do for obvious reasons because I have to stay close to the mic, I want you to breathe in and out through your nose and just feel the natural movement that's happening. You are going to feel your stomach and your sides and even your back expand as you breathe. Again, breathing in and out through your nose to start. Just relaxing and noticing you're not making anything happen. Notice what's naturally happening. So when you're in that posture, you'll notice your chest is not naturally rising and falling. Most of the action is happening lower in your body. Again, your belly, your sides, and your back. So just feel how nice and relaxed that is. Okay, once you've breathed for a bit there, then bring yourself back into a normal seated or standing posture and see if you can continue to feel those areas that we just mentioned and that you just felt, belly, sides, and back, relaxing and moving as you breathe. Again, just breathe in and out through your nose. And you'll notice your chest, it might rise and fall a little bit, but it is not going, that's not happening when you're breathing in and out through your nose and relaxed. Climate change skeptic asked, my range is G2 to G6. What would that be? So that covers multiple ranges, technically. G2 would be probably about the bottom of a baritone range. And then G6, that is well into soprano territory. So I would not know how to type your voice. And I probably wouldn't type your voice. What it comes down to, really, we're now talking about tessitura, the range in which your voice is most comfortable and sounds most beautiful. And let's say you find that G2 to G6, you can sing, over quite a wide range, but where is your voice? It's most comfortable, most beautiful, and some might say most unique as well. Where do you sound most like you? And that's something that we can't really analyze objectively. It becomes a little bit more art than science there. But again, hey, if you feel that you sound great and feel great throughout that entire range, why limit yourself? Why put yourself in a box? There might come a day where you have to choose, am I going to sing alto or tenor in this choir, or am I going to sing, you might have to choose a part. And but for today, you don't need to limit yourself. That's the nice thing about voices, is they are so flexible and so unique. But again, you might have to choose one for a choir. Speaking from personal experience, you heard me sing a B2 one time. With me being sick, I mean, it's not going to sound pretty, but I'll try it for you. Oh, I'm sharp. Did you one better going down to A2. I could not do that if I was healthy. Don't be impressed. The sound is not very beautiful either, but happy to oblige. what were we talking about? Oh yeah, super, super wide ranges. Speaking from personal experience, I will often kind of go back and forth between alto and mezzo soprano, and depending on the style, I like to do one or the other. But what I found is my voice tired out more easily singing higher, and I found I could sing lower for longer periods of time. And I didn't really know that based just on range. I kind of had to experience that myself, and then realize, okay, I can sing for hours in this lower range, whereas other people it's the opposite. They can sing for hours in the soprano range, and yeah, maybe they can sing alto. Technically, it's within their range, but their voice is more comfortable for a long period of time singing soprano. So, um, and then A2 easier with mouth wide, like an ah syllable. Uh, I'm not sure. Yeah, and totally. Mouth position and vowel makes a huge difference. That A2 is not within my range at all. But I don't think I'll make it. I'm not there. And hi, Pete. Good to see you here. Yeah, that super open ah is not great for me on those really, really low pitches. At least not today. Back to breathing, my friends. So, basics of posture and breathing. Once you've got that nice, relaxed movement that you're feeling, and you're standing or seated with good posture, um, then the only thing left to do is to take that in and out through the nose breath and just make it an in and out through the mouth breath. Um, some folks might breathe. Hi, Alice. Some folks might breathe in through their nose when they're singing because you'll notice this breathing in through the nose, it moisturizes the air more than if you're breathing in and out through the mouth. So, especially if you have an intro or an instrumental interlude, absolutely breathe in and out through your nose. I'm partial to breathing in through the mouth when I'm just about to sing because your mouth has to be open to sing. So it just makes sense to, you know, open the mouth, set up your resonant space that you're about to sing with, and then start singing. Okay, so next step, if you're just joining, we've talked a little bit about matching pitch. We found our range. We went over the very basics of posture and breathing. And now we'll talk a little bit about registers. This is hotly debated in the voice teaching world, but for the most part, you're going to hear people talking about chest voice, head voice, and mix. Or they might call it full voice, chest voice. They might call head voice falsetto, or they might categorize those as two different things. They'll talk about, some people will say, well, you're always mixing. I'm not here to say definitively what should be done with all of that, but what's helpful and or at least what I find helpful and what helps students is continuing to use these terms that have been around for a while. Yes, they're a little bit confusing, but let me give you kind of the intro. And we've got some questions. Dimash, yes, have heard of, incredible range. And then how do you sing when your voice sounds stuck? Roxana, I would love to help you with that. Can you describe a little bit more what you mean by sounding stuck or feeling stuck? And I'd love to help answer that. Okay, so when voice teachers talk about chest voice, another way to think about it is your speaking voice, the function, the feeling, and the general sound that you have in your speaking voice. If you sustain that, that's what we call your chest voice. Typically, that function or that mode is what you use for lower pitches within your range. And it's called chest voice, not because your chest has anything to do with producing the sound, but because we feel what's called sympathetic vibration on our chest when we make sound in that way. So, yes, it's confusing. It's kind of silly, but that's the term that's been around for a long time. So, that's what we're using. And then head voice or falsetto, if you give me a high pitched, light, maybe quiet owl hoot sound, whoo, whoo, then you're in head voice mode, falsetto mode, mode 2. There's a lot of different terms for it. And again, yes, it's confusing that we would say head voice because all of the sounds we make are coming from our head. But you will notice if you make that owl hoot sound, whoo, whoo, you're not feeling that strong vibration on your chest anymore. Whoo, whoo. So something has changed. Both the function within your larynx or the function of the vocal folds and the resonance or the vibration following that is different than it is in chest voice. So those are kind of the two main registers that we start with. And then over time, we develop mix or a blending of those functions. So next thing I want to do with you in your first voice lesson is to see what happens and where your voice hands over from that chest or speaking voice mode to head voice or falsetto mode. We do this to kind of diagnose what your voice's natural tendency is, and then assign exercises to help you based on that. And speaking very broadly, singers tend to either get shouty or they tend to flip into head voice. So, example of both, I'll back away from the mic. And again, forgive my still recovering voice. If I'm a more shouty singer, as we do this next exercise, I might go, ah, and start getting a little bit throaty. My mouth might spread wider. If I'm a flip into head voice person, it might sound more like, ah, and my voice naturally flipped or switched gears kind of abruptly into that higher, lighter head voice, owl hooty sound. So again, broadly speaking, singers tend to fall into one of those categories. And in a first voice lesson, we determine, okay, what's your voice's natural tendency? So again, we can find exercises that will help you to develop more of a balance and not be either shouty or flipping into head voice. Roxana clarified, when I started singing during March, funny story, not, my voice sounded very funny. It's the seasons changing, but it hasn't affected my voice this hard. So that's the thing. How do you sing when your voice sounds stuck and having a hard cough as well? So it sounds like maybe we're dealing with some allergies and the cough might be related to that. Allergies sometimes will cause, a postnasal drip situation, which then leads to coughing. So I would say first and foremost, we would have to deal with that. And of course, I'm a voice teacher, not a doctor. But if you're dealing with postnasal drip, allergies, cough, no vocal exercise is going to help those issues. Of course, you can continue to sing as long as it's not painful for you. But we would want to deal with that first, because otherwise we're just, we're struggling through. So unfortunately, that's my advice for you, is to figure out what that underlying issue is and deal with the allergies or the postnasal drip or the cough first, before you get overly concerned about your voice and how it's sounding. because most likely that's yeah, not something that a vocal exercise will fix per se. Um, and Pete, I'm guessing you're referring to that on the wall, the sconce. Yeah, happy to help. I hope that was helpful. I will say also anecdotally, as you know, I'm also getting over being sick. Saline sinus rinses are great if you're suffering from allergies or a sinus infection. So if you have not tried that, I'll put it in the chat. Saline sinus rinse. Um, Neilmed is a well-known brand, but of course you can get any. It's the same idea as a neti pot, but that can help you with both your allergy symptoms and dealing with the postnasal drip that might be leading to that cough. So something to look into. And of course, if you are suffering from allergies and are working with a doctor to help you with that, then defer to whatever they give you and potentially prescribe. But that's something non-medicinally that could help you. Okay, so we are now doing our diagnostic scale. Low voices, I'm going to start you right here. We're just singing a 5-tone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but on an ah. So make sure that you are in the correct octave here. High voices like mine, hang out. You don't need to sing this low. I'll let you know when to jump in. But low voices, starting right here. Again, you're singing ah, and then we're going to move up. Ah, and hopefully you sound better than I do. And we'll continue on. What your job is, that would normally be my job if I was with you one-on-one, is to take note of when you notice that either shouting or flipping, cracking into head voice tendency. So when do you notice that? And then what's happening? Are you getting shouty or are you flipping into head voice? And a lot of times, even if you're a shouty person, you'll eventually crack. So just take note of what's happening and where. And I will call out the top pitch that you're singing so that you have an idea. I hope that makes sense. So for example, the top pitch there is A3. So I'm going to call out A3. And so for you at home, you are taking note, okay, at A3, that's where I started to feel myself get shouty, or that's where I started to flip into head voice. Okay. So here goes. Low voices, you're singing on ah and go. That was A3. Now top note is going to be B flat 3. B3. C4. C sharp 4. G3. Oh, I'm sorry. G3 is our starting note. D4. Go. Okay, stop right here. High voices like mine, you can join. You're going to be singing ah, and then same thing. We're going up. I'm going to call out the top pitch, and I see a question or two in the chat. Thank you so much, Nick. And I've had a tired voice for a few weeks. I've cut back my practice, but it's still lingering. It feels fine when I sing with full breath support and volume, but it tires quickly when I speak. Should I be concerned about vocal damage? Great question. I would say, first off, if you're fatiguing and don't have any explanation for why that is, I don't know that I would be concerned, but I would keep an eye on it. And again, of course, If you have a concern about this, bring it up with your doctor. Hopefully they will ask the right questions and get you to the right specialist if that's needed. But to answer your question, succinctly, yeah, if your voice is tiring and you don't have any reason for that, like overuse, allergies, illness, um, then it is something to keep an eye on for sure. Um, but I definitely would not be jumping to any conclusions, especially if that's the only thing that you're experiencing. You're not having, loss of range or um, got it. Um, yeah, if you're not experiencing your voice, cutting out, extreme loss of range, and that's kind of tricky when you're new to singing. You don't quite know yet what's normal and what's not for your voice. So yeah, it is a little bit tricky. Uh, I would also ask questions about when you're speaking. What is the nature and context of your speaking? Are you talking on the phone? Are you talking with headphones? Are you taking breaks when possible? Are you talking a lot more than you used to? Um, so that's also potentially a factor. Uh, okay, we got to finish this diagnostic scale. So everyone's singing together now, low voices and high voices. Your starting pitch is A flat 3. The highest pitch is E flat 4. Okay, here we go. Jump back in with me. And again, you're taking note. Are you shouting or flipping into head voice? And where is that happening? E4. F4. F sharp 4. G4. G sharp 4. A4. A sharp 4. B4. C5. C sharp 5. D5. Okay, almost certainly we've all reached a point where either we got shouty and then cracked or we just flipped into head voice. So, wherever that was, you can take note of it. If your tendency was to get shouty, then we would spend more time in head voice. We would do more exercises that are top down. So instead of singing, for example, ba 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 ba, we would do top down ba 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 ba. Exercises that discourage carrying excess weight or muscle up as you're ascending. If you tend to, on the other hand, flip into head voice, then we'd spend more time doing more speaking voice, chest voice exercises. And we also might do some of those kind of bratty sounds, the nay-nays and na-nas, really, beautiful sounds. um, so let's jump in with our last few minutes. By the way, this is technically Q&A time, so I'll prioritize that. But we will do a few vocal exercises together, things that we would do in a first voice lesson, kind of more demoing them than doing the full thing. But what I like to do is to start with your speaking voice, especially for beginning singers. You can talk, and if you can talk, you can sing. And the easiest way to kind of ease you into that is just speaking on pitch. So exercises like no, 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 or hey, 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 that they're not really beautiful. They're just speaking on pitch and getting you connected to that. So for low voices, we might start a bit lower than that. Or maybe the word go, nice and firm and strong. Go, 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 go. And then we can start to extend a little bit. Go. And now it starts to feel a little bit more like you're singing rather than just speaking. But those exercises I like. And then we jump to exercises like the owl hoot, the woo, 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 or woo, getting you used to singing in that higher, lighter falsetto or head voice mode. So try a few of those with me, and we'll have everybody together. I'll start you a little bit lower than that. Let's start here. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So find that mode first by just giving me a few owl hoots. Ooh, ooh. Good. And now we're going to walk up and down. Ooh. Ready and sing. Walking up. Drop out if this is getting too high for you. Try one or two more. Walking back down. I'm not spending as much time kind of going through the entire exercise because each of you are individual, and we've got tons of exercises on the channel for specific ranges. And so I would rather you spend your time there, but just kind of going over with you what you can expect in a first voice lesson. So some speaking on pitch, some head voice, and then starting to find some connection between the two. I really like using kind of a strong open vowel for chest voice and then a nice narrow vowel for head voice. So an exercise may be like woo, something like that, where we're starting in chest voice, we're jumping into head voice, so you don't need to worry about that middle transition that's kind of scary for some people, and then making our way back down, or in something like that. So again, everyone together, I'm going to start you a little bit lower than that. If this is too low, don't worry about it. Just jump in when you can. So we'll start here. Ready and sing. By the way, if sliding is not happening, you can just jump and practice that kind of register switching instead of register blending. Instead of Okay, here you go. Okay, and of course, you could go higher, you could come back down. And then, depending on what you found your tendency was, whether you were kind of more of a shouty in the middle person or a flip to head voice in the middle person, then we can do specific exercises for starting to develop mix. So I see a few questions, so let me jump into those for a sec. Might remember from a while back, I caught COVID in May last year. I used your advice about retraining my belt style baritone range. Now my breathing has been tougher on higher notes, especially on the higher end of my range, C5. Any general advice on retraining breath control, especially going from mix into head voice? Hope this makes sense. Just feel my range hasn't been the same post COVID. I'm so sorry. You know, it can take a frustratingly long time for your voice to recover after illness, especially if there's been a cough, because think about how abrasive a cough is, just kind of slamming those vocal folds together constantly. So any general advice on retraining breath control, though, especially going from mix into head voice? My Speaking from personal experience, I would say if you're going from mix to a head voice that maybe is leaking air, is that what's happening? And you feel like you're losing breath at that transition? Tell me if that's the case, or if I'm off in that guess. I would wonder what happens if you go in the opposite direction, if you start in head voice and then get into mix. And then Roxana is saying, I do have trouble with breath control at times. Okay. So Nick is saying similarly, yes. Well, this might be, have you done much straw phonation in that range? The reason I bring that up is that's a pretty easy and kind of I don't want to say like user error proof way of training just good efficient vocalization. It's something that you can use where you don't really have to worry too much about what you're doing or not doing. It's kind of the straw handles it for you. So I'm wondering if you've experimented in that range of kind of some straw slides. So the reason I'm bringing that up, if it's, you're going from more kind of efficient vocal fold closure to maybe leaking some air, then training with the straw can help you, at least at the vocal fold level. I wonder if anything's happening. I'm guessing you're not changing much about your, abdominal engagement or anything else that would affect your breath control. That's where I would start. I would start with those two things of kind of straw slides over that range. And then if you feel, let's see, I have used singing through a straw using the glides. I just feel like I've had to knock down one or two keys lower compared to when I was much more in control. I mean, gosh, I've been in your shoes, Nick. I've post illness have struggled, for a very, very long time to get my range back to where it was. So I don't think that I have anything novel to really recommend. It just takes a long time sometimes, you know? Um, I would say I'll recommend things that I have in the past, semi-occluded things, personal experience. Yeah. So the thing that comes to mind is not forcing it and not prioritizing range so much that it then leads to bad habits. Because speaking from personal experience, when we're concerned about those pitches, oftentimes then we start to kind of muscle our way into them, instead of just kind of opening up and letting them happen. And so I think with range extension in general, and I think especially kind of building back your range after illness, I would really encourage you to prioritize instead feeling relaxed, and stable rather than going for that specific note, whatever it is. Pete is saying I'd use falsetto and gradually widen it. Great advice. And as a lower voiced singer, I think Pete's experience of high range extension is probably more similar to yours, Nick. So I would listen to that. But yeah, anytime I've worked on high range extension or tried to get my range back after illness, it goes much better if I go very slowly and kind of let my voice open up kind of on its own time rather than saying, no, I need to get this note today. And then I end up kind of squeezing and forcing it. And then that very often can sort of turn into a habit of, well, that's how I get high notes, is squeezing and forcing it. And that's the last thing I would want for you. I would say another thing is, don't get discouraged if there are cracks or gaps. You don't need to, as long as you're not feeling pain, you don't need to stop making sound, or stop vocalizing just because your voice cracked or you had a gap. And yeah, sure thing, Nick. I think that was a real game changer for me, is working through cracks and gaps through repetition, rather than just reaching a point where my voice cracked or disappeared and I thought, oh, I can't sing that high, so I need to stop. Sometimes you'll find you have a little gap, but you can work through it. You can find those pitches in the middle, just with easy vocalization and repetition. So that too, especially if it's, again, we're talking about high range extension, for you to lose connection for a second, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Work down a little bit, work back up, try it on a different configuration, whether that's through the straw or something else semi-occluded, a different vowel, different volume. Sometimes just reset, try it again, instead of being normally the way we do vocal exercises is just one after the next, right? We do, right? And there's no repetition. But if you're working on your own, you can, if you're working like with a video or an MP3, pausing it, trying it again at your own pace, that can be helpful, and you're less like, gotta do it. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I mentioned very briefly before, if you tend to get shouty in that middle range, then spending more time in head voice, using narrower vowels like oo and e, and less volume. Exercises like that should help you. And then if you tend to flip into head voice, then spending more time in chest voice, using wider vowels, a little bit more volume sometimes, and then using some of those bratty sounds and syllables, can be very, very helpful to start bridging that gap between your speaking voice and then your head voice or falsetto. We definitely do not have time for song work as I hoped, but I hope you found this helpful, especially if you have never had a voice lesson before. all of these things, if you do decide to work with a teacher one-on-one, hopefully they will help guide you even more specifically. Um, so again, just kind of recapping what to expect in a first lesson, making sure that you can match pitch. If you want to find your range, but don't put yourself in a box, expect that to kind of change. Going over the basics of posture and breathing, dealing with issues as if they arise down the road, and starting to develop an awareness of those vocal registers, seeing what your tendency is, especially in the middle, and getting some vocal exercises, both to develop those registers and then start blending, finding that mix, as we call it. So if that interests you, if any of those vocal exercises you're like, I want some more on that. Please check out what's here available on the channel. You can look up, chest voice or head voice or mix or, range specific or voice type specific warm up routine. There's a lot available. So have fun with that. I will see you, I believe, next week. I think so. Abram and I, now that I'm jumping back into live lessons, we will start trading off. But I think our plan is to do 2 weeks and trade off that way. So I think I'll see you next week, and then Abram will be back as well. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your questions, and I hope you're all doing well. Okay, I will see ya. Bye.